Okay, we're going to end with just a few words about being sensitive and removing barriers to spiritual contact. What do you suppose are some of the main barriers? Because there's a lot of people out there that want to achieve soul contact. They'd like to have visions. They'd like to see God or angels, contact the masters, or just even get a good vibe going. And a lot of people complain that nothing seems to happen to them. And other people, seem to have a lot of contact. A lot of that contact is questionable. They wind up making predictions that flying saucers are going to pick them up at a certain date and take them to the fifth dimension, or like the people with the Hale-Bopp comet that were waiting to ride the comet or some crazy thing. I can't remember what they were, but they all wind up killing them. Oh, they wind up killing themselves so they could go on this comet to another dimension. And people do some crazy stuff. So everybody out there that claims to be in contact with something, they may be in contact with something, but you may be better off than they are, even if you're not making any particular contact. But there is a definite spiritual contact, and the main way to tell is by the vibration itself. Now, the problem is that for the average churchgoer, he or she will pick up, they hear a speech they like in church or something, or sing a nice hymn, or hear a tear-jerking story. They'll feel very emotional, and their higher astral body will be touched. And that's the highest vibration they have felt. And they will think that is like God speaking to them, or feeling the essence of the Holy Spirit. But then others go higher still and tune in above the regular emotional level to the higher areas of the heart. And they will tune in to a higher vibration still. And that's what we want to remove the barriers to. So everybody would like to have this happen, but it's just hard to just demand it. And one of the problems, and the principle to follow more than anything else, is this: is energy follows thought. But the problem with energy following thought is you've only got so much thought and so much time and so much you can devote to various different activities. I come across this guy that claims to have visions, and he prays and meditates. He told me 5 hours a day. Okay, so, well, no wonder he's getting some. 5 hours a day and prayer and meditation. Some of these monks in the East, that's what they do too. 4 or 5 hours a day. That's a tremendous amount of time. You devote that much energy, where energy follows thought. Well, you're probably going to have something happening. Whether or not you'll break forth into pure truth is another matter. But if you're putting that much energy in trying to pursue supernatural results, you're going to get some type of results. How true they are and how pure they are will depend on your state of mind, your focus, the removal of your barriers, because many of these people that spend a lot of time in meditation still have barriers between them and the true reality. These barriers have to be removed. If they aren't removed and you spend 4 or 5 hours a day in meditation, you're going to get something, but it's going to be filtered through these, the fog of these barriers that will surround you. And a lot of the information you get will be upside down. This is why you read all these people that have all these spiritual experiences, and they all say different stuff, and a lot of them contradict the other. Have you guys noticed that? When you read about, say, near-death experiences or visions or revelations, that one of these people will often contradict everybody else, and then the third contradicts the fourth, and so on. I'll bet you've noticed that, haven't you, Rob?
Either contradiction or they end up all just sounding the same, just repackaged.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. A lot of them, you take the popular books that's out there, like Conversations with God came out. After that come out and sold millions of copies. It's amazing how many people started sounding like that guy. And so, yeah, that's really true. And then there's a lot of people that take Alice A. Bailey's works and present them as some revelation they got, and it's not really new material. Then there's others that do present new stuff. The new stuff is usually oddball predictions, like the planet X is going to show up in 6 months and destroy half the world, type of thing. That prediction has come and gone about 6 or 7 times since I've been writing for the Keys. And every time it comes up, I predict it's not going to happen. And I'm the one that turns out to be right. Never did happen. But so it's amazing. And this befuddles a lot of seekers, that there's so much stuff out there that it's amazing how it's either like Rob says, a copy of stuff already out there, or else it's something. If it is something new, it often conflicts with a lot of other so-called revelations that claim to be from the source, and the revelator just swears this is the real deal. So of course, what we all have to do is contact our own souls. Being in contact with your own soul, even, and I advise this even about anything I say. If what I say doesn't register with your soul, then put it on the shelf. Don't really go with it until it does register with your soul. When it registers with your soul, then go with it and as far as you can take it. And sometimes you'll have teachers say something with a lot of truth in, but then it's got some things in that aren't particularly true. But your soul will nudge you in that direction because there's more truth than non-truth. So sometimes your soul will nudge you in a direction where there is the most truth. But on this planet, it's hard to find 100% pure truth in any teacher or book or anything. The words themselves veil truth. You take the purest words out there and they can be interpreted a lot of different directions. So the trouble is energy follows thought, but we've only got so much time to dedicate to different things. A lot of people would really like to pursue a spiritual direction, but say they got a day job, they got to work and pay attention to that. And then when they get home, they got the wife and kids or whatever, or chores to do, and they maybe have very little time to dedicate to trying to remove the barriers between themselves and spirit. And this is one thing that DK points out. He says that one of the differences between the East and the West is in the East, they dedicate a lot more time to meditation. But he says the way that we live in the West is entirely different, and it takes a different type of meditation to handle things in the West. He says operating a business takes a degree of meditative state to be able to just make things work. And then he tells us also the disciples, especially in the West, he says, have to learn to do two things at one time, to be able to focus on the spiritual while taking care of the material. But the people in the East don't have to do that so much because their entire focus is quite a bit different than the people in the West. So he says the people in the West have to, they're kind of outgoing, where the people in the East and India are more inward. So the outgoing people in the West have to learn to seek mentally as they're handling all the riffraff that goes on in our lives in this country, and where there's so many things to distract us. So we can only do so much. Is another problem, is a lot of us would like to dedicate more time to doing things, and say even with our group here, we've had groups, people come up with ideas. Hey, well, let's do this, and everybody sounds fairly enthused, and then nobody gets around to doing it because they're distracted. They got other things to do. They got kids. They got jobs, and so sometimes members have got a little frustrated in maybe creating a project they like, and it's people just have a hard time getting the time to do it. So what the disciple has to do is just make the best of his time. And if you make the best of your time, just a short period of time focusing on the spiritual can be as productive as somebody else putting 5 hours on the spiritual. And he can, if he removes the barriers. Now the barriers are numerous. The biggest barrier comes up to the mind. You have the mind, the emotions, and the physical realm. And there's barriers in them all. And the biggest barrier of all is in the mind. And it's focused on the belief. The mind is responsible for what you believe, because the mind calculates what your belief is, and then that influences your emotional body. So your emotional body grabs on to what your mind has decided to believe, and then it creates emotions around that belief system that the mind has produced and made a part of yourself. And so what we have to do is focus on our beliefs. And, you know, a while back, Scott got the revelation that we needed to focus more on the belief that the molecular order could be created in this lifetime. And instead of thinking maybe it will, we need to switch the belief to we can do it. And this is important, because with our belief system, if it's like the old saying goes, if you believe you can, then you can do it. So what we have to do is examine our core beliefs. What is our core belief about contacting the spirit? Do we have a belief that we have to have a certain degree of worthiness? If we have this belief that we have to have a certain degree of worthiness, then the chances are you will never achieve that degree of worthiness. But look at it this way. When you approach your own parents in this life, do you feel you have to be worthy to talk to them and get their advice?
Yes.
You do? Well, that's the exception. Most people don't with their parents. How about you, Marnie?
No, I don't. But I can see how Adam has had that struggle.
Yeah, with some parents that may be the case. That's true. Most parents, if you made a mistake, you come, Mom and Dad, I made a mistake, I need to talk to you. They'll say, okay, well, let's talk. And they won't say, well, you're unworthy, so you go get worthy and then come back and then I'll talk to you about your problem. Okay, so this sense of worthiness is a barrier between us and spirit, because there's a part of you that is pure, and this is what the higher lives look at. They look at the son or daughter, the child of God, the spark of God that is within you. And that's what they look at. And they look at all the things that we see that make us flawed as just theater, so to speak. And so they look at the worthiness and unworthiness a lot different than we do. The main thing they look at for somebody they can use is what kind of skills they've developed. They look at that a lot more than worthiness. Just like if Adam has a business going, so if you want to hire somebody, do you look at more whether or not they're worthy and have good intentions? Or do you look more at, can this guy do the job? Because we want the job done. Okay, which do you look at the most, Adam?
The work ethic and the skills, for sure.
Right. So each of us, like the parable of the talents, each of us needs to develop our talent so that we have something to contribute to the work of the hierarchy. If you have something to contribute, then you will be more likely to attract the higher lives than if you go and whip yourself and fast and sacrifice and try to become worthy. Okay, that can be a little bit helpful. You learn a few things from doing that, but the higher lives are much more impressed when a person sharpens his ability so that he can be a useful tool in influencing other people and getting things done for the advancement of humanity. And so this is an important thing. The other things that are in the way, or guilt is a big thing that's in the way. And guilt is caused by relying too much on outward authority. Where you have, in the Mormon church is a perfect example where the prophet is a substitute for God. When the prophet speaks, it's as if God has spoken. Okay. That's not true for any human being on the earth. The only thing it's true for is when your soul speaks and it's confirmed, then you can say God has spoken. But when any outward authority speaks, it must register with your soul. And when it registers with your soul, then we're under obligation to give it some credibility at that time. So we as a group want to achieve as group spiritual contact. We've had 3 ladies do that all at one time, which is really great. And we've had individuals in the group achieve, I think every individual has at one time or another has achieved some spiritual contact. But achieving it as a group is the goal. And the group achievement will enhance the power of the hierarchy to be able to work through us. So this is a great thing to look forward to. Now, Marnie, when we made that contact, did you have a feeling that others were experiencing it?
I did actually. I didn't know exactly who at the time, but it felt like it anyway.
Yeah, and it's a really great feeling to feel the flow between not just you and your soul, or you and the master, but you and other people that you're close to. And I sense that a number of people in the group are close to heaven that's happened again. And so I want everybody to prepare their minds and hearts. And tomorrow we're going to see how close we can get to that connection. And hopefully we can make an extra step. That's why we're doing a meditation three days in a row here to get closer. Matter of fact, I feel that several people are on the threshold right at this moment. And so all I can do is advise you to keep up the good work. And another thing to keep in mind is to always try to look when you're pursuing the spiritual, always try to look beyond normal senses. Because one of the things esoteric teachings teach is that our vision that we see, we look around and we see all kinds of things, tables and chairs and benches and whatever, lights. We're seeing this with our physical eyes, but there's things to see beyond the physical eyes. And the physical senses dulls the spiritual senses. So when we depend 100% on our physical eyes, it drowns out other things that we could be seeing. And there's a lot of different ways to see. There's seeing with a third eye where you can see the etheric matter. There's seeing through the eyes of understanding. And seeing through the eyes of understanding is very important. And I think a lot of you are getting good at doing that, seeing through the eyes of understanding. Does that register with you, Adam? Seeing through the eyes of understanding, that phrase?
Yeah, it does actually.
Yeah. And because when you see through the see beyond the physical eyes and understand beyond the brain understanding, then the higher realms become open to you. And one of the things you can do is, I've given you the exercise a number of times about how to see the etheric body with the practice of the thumbs, or putting somebody against a wall and seeing their etheric body. To practice seeing that as well as the auras. And now another thing you can practice seeing is to look up at the stars at night. And the stars are actually a concentrated focus of what is there. There's much there besides that little pinpoint of light. That pinpoint of light is a center that stretches out. And if you focus on that and see beyond the physical eyes, you will see waves of energy proceeding out from the various stars and intermingling with other stars. And these stars, the logos of these systems, actually reach out and send energies that interplay with other systems. And the Tibetan spoke about this too, that he says he can look up in the night sky and see all kinds of things going on up there. And but there are a lot of things going on up there that you can see beyond the physical. And to sense the spirit, now we have the feeling nature. You touch things with your hands and you can feel stuff. What the ladies felt the other day was they felt with their spiritual senses. And to feel with your spiritual senses, just let the physical senses go and feel put your attention on the spirit rather than the physical. And feeling the spiritual realm is a wonderful experience, but it's a different type of feeling. And it's a different type of feeling than touching something on the physical. Touching something on the physical is just a dim reflection. So Marnie, when you felt that the other day, it was,
I didn't know that she
you sense that it's not that you saw anything, but you felt.
Yeah, it was a feeling. And when I go back, I mean, it's hard to remember exactly, but as I recall it, I don't remember like what was going on around me. Like I was in my living room, I can typically hear stuff outside, and it's like everything else kind of just disappeared. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, and it's like I say, to see auras, you have to go through a process which I call not seeing. In other words, when you first see an aura, the tendency is, I see it. And then you try to look with the physical eyes and it disappears. Okay. And it's very frustrating at first until you learn as soon as you see it, you don't even think of the physical eyes at all. You just act as if the physical doesn't exist, and then it stays. Then you can continue to look at it. But and it's kind of that way with all the spiritual things. It's the tuning out of the material, and I don't know if it's so much tuning into the spirit as just letting the spirit come. Okay, because like when that happened, we weren't particularly trying to tune into the spirit, but we allowed it to come. And when you're open, completely open, allow it to come, then a lot of the barriers begin to be removed. So all of us are limited in amount of time that we have. You only got so much things. You only can read so many books, go to so many lectures, do so much meditating. So what the disciples have to do is just make the best possible use of their time. And so that's what I encourage everybody to do, is to focus and think about what you can do to make the best use of your free time to remove the barriers between yourself and spirit. Okay, any comment on what I've said or question?
Melissa has a question in
Yeah.
the chat.
Melissa had a question for you.
Who does?
Melissa?
Oh, Melissa, is she here? Or did she post something?
I can ask it. So
Okay.
my question was, how can you not be scared? Because like I had an experience like 10 years ago where I saw like the brightest light, like a star, like you just said, and it scared me. So I jumped in my bed and I was like, whoever that was, don't ever do that again.
Were you in your bedroom at the time, or what was your situation?
So I was in my bedroom. I was like 21. I was doing the most like basic gratitude meditation I saw on Oprah. Like I was just looking to feel good. I was not looking to have an experience.
Well, when I was
But I
young, I had
did.
a number of jarring things happened to me that scared the dickens out of me, but and that can happen. And so just kind of refocus and tune in to the energy that was there. And if the energy feels good, well, then there's nothing to be afraid of. What did the energy feel like? Or was it just so startling you didn't have time to think about it?
Oh yeah, it was just so startling. At the time I was very afraid of aliens. I'm not afraid of aliens anymore. I've gotten over my fear. Like I was just like, Jesus can save me from the aliens. I don't have to be scared anymore. But at the time, I was just scared of aliens. So I was just like, it was like being in a horror movie.
Oh, did you read about these alien abductions or something and that made you nervous, or what? Why did
Yeah, at the time. And then I started reading about them more. And then I started reading that like Jesus can save you from aliens. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to be scared anymore. But I didn't know that at the time, so I was just scared. And it just lit up my whole room. And I just was so scared. And I remember after the first meditation I did in this group, like that night, I knew there was something behind me and my dog was like nudging me to turn around and I was like, I'm not looking. I'm not looking. I kept my eyes closed. I was like, no, I'm not looking.
so it was like a physical light that lit up the room?
Yeah, 10 years ago. It was and then what was even
Wasn't
weirder.
just a light you saw within your closed eyes or anything, but you saw it with
Oh
your,
yeah, it was, yeah, no, it was physical. It was in the room.
oh yeah,
And then the next day I went to tell my
dark.
brother about it.
Yeah.
And we walked outside and we were going to talk about it in the car so that our parents wouldn't hear us talking. And then it happened again in front of both of us.
Did you feel any vibration in connection with it?
No, just like awe, I guess, because like it's like
Hmm.
that it happened again, and just that it didn't feel like anything. It was just very pure white. That's all I remember, other than being scared.
From the hierarchy, you'd feel some type of vibration in connection with it. So it's hard to say what that was,
Okay.
unless you just weren't paying attention to the vibration, you know?
Yeah, I didn't know what to look for. I was so young.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, people have had startling things happen and see mysterious lights, and a lot of people claim to have actually seen aliens. So I'm sure that's somewhat unnerving if you had some spider-looking alien show up, or something that looked like a grasshopper, like some people say. So, but for the manifestations of the spirit, it's very comforting. Now let's go back to Marnie again, who just felt that the other day. There was no fear in connection with that, was there, Marnie?
No.
Yeah, it just felt really comforting, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Peaceful.
friendly. You knew there was nothing to fear. And this is a great part about the pure spiritual contact. And there's other things going on, but there's a number of mischievous entities out there that pull tricks on people.
Yeah.
And, so you want to pay attention to what you felt, what kind of vibration you feel if you come across some supernatural force.
One thing I remember you saying once, JJ, was the difference in peaceful states too. That if if you can distinguish between the peace that may come from without versus the peace that comes from within. And that's the peace that comes from within, that obviously is what we're seeking.
Yeah, there's two different kinds of pieces. There's peace that's a lack of disturbance. And then there's the peace of the spirit, which Paul called the peace that passes all understanding. And that is the great thing we want to pursue. So a lot of people are deceived by just what the average person thinks is peace. And that's not the peace of the spirit. The peace of the spirit is very deep. And you know, it's wonderful, and it makes you feel like home almost. Probably home is a good word to describe it. It makes you realize that you came from somewhere that's a much more exalted place than we reside right now. Okay, anything else? Did you have something, Rob? Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate everybody. And we'll meet again tomorrow. Well, for the night owls, if anyone wants to stay up late, we're meeting at 2 a.m. in the morning, Mountain Standard Time for the Eastern people and night owls. And then tomorrow at 1 o'clock, isn't it? And so we'll look forward to seeing you again.
Hey, JJ,
Yeah.
I have a question, but I don't necessarily need it to be part of the recorded stuff. It's just a kind of a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so regarding spiritual block, so I used to have a lot of spiritual contact. Not that I was able to start it. I didn't meditate to get there. They just seemed to contact me, and or it would just kind of happen. And the last time it happened, I was with somebody. We were going through space. He was holding my hand and we were going together. And we got to the edge of creation. We got to the edge of where, I mean, it was still expanding, but it was the place where creation hadn't got there yet. It was kind of like a big nothing, but it wasn't black.
Oh, yeah.
It just wasn't formed yet. It's
Oh,
kind of like, I don't want to call it a big nothing, because even nothing says that something was there. And it wasn't like a desert, it was just not formed. And when I realized that I was looking at the edge of creation, then I got scared. And I wasn't scared because of I wasn't scared going through space. I wasn't scared that he was with me. I wasn't scared with any part of the contact. But when I realized that I was looking at the edge of creation, I got a case of the unworthies. And I said, I am not big enough to know this. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough, or I can't know this. I shouldn't know this. I shouldn't have this information. And I instantly came slamming back into my body and sat straight up and instantly wanted to take the words back. I wanted to take it back. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but but I did say it, and I haven't been able to make soul contact since.
I
I
don't
mean,
know of anyone who's been to the edge of creation before, so that's pretty interesting. The most frightening thing you can go through is the unknown. If you encounter something that's totally unknown and you don't have assuring presence telling you there's nothing to fear, then that's very hard for people to handle. And you got to the edge of creation and you think, wow, what in the world could be beyond creation? And that's an unknown. So you can't blame me for being afraid at that point and having some fear, unless you had
but
somebody with you.
I did.
Oh, so you did have somebody with you?
Yeah, he was still holding my hand. He was still there with me.
Was he telling you there was nothing to fear?
No, he didn't say anything through the whole trip. All communication is kind of mind to mind. So the thoughts kind of appear in my head like a download.
Well, you'd think he would have told you there was nothing to fear.
No, it was just over. It's like, because it was my choice, because I said, I want out. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this anymore. That was it. It was like I was kicked out of heaven.
Well, that's pretty interesting. So I don't know if I've heard anyone else have a vision where they went to the edge of creation before. Has anyone else heard of anyone going to the edge of creation?
I don't think the edge of creation has to do with the question. The question that I have is how, so obviously there's a block there. Now, obviously there's a big block because it manifests in my body in illnesses. So
Well, I think your illnesses is probably more than that, but it's probably probably in association with your past lives too, from what you've told me. So I think there's a number of things at play as far as that goes. But yeah, a sense of unworthiness, if you feel like you failed, that can affect people. And but what helps me a lot is the realization that the higher lives are like our fathers and mothers. And if you have a kid, even though the kid really screws up, you still love them and you still want to help them out and you want what's best for them. And if they come to you, you're willing to give them love and support, even though they've really made big mistakes. So when you look at the higher lives through that filter, then that really helps to alleviate the unworthiness, the fear, knowing that you are much more accepted than the preachers out there tell you you are. You know.
that was my question. Can we kick ourselves out of heaven? Can we kick ourselves out of soul contact?
Well, you can kick yourself out of heaven, but nobody else can. But you can kick yourself back in too. So
Okay, thanks.
yeah, all of us are in the earthly sphere. We are not completely in heaven. However, if we stay in tune with the soul, we can experience the reflection of heaven within ourselves. And that's what we're after. Okay, my friends, appreciate your time, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Artie. Thank you, JJ.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Good job.